Well, hey there, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Rate the Record podcast, episode 130. Thank you very much for joining me today. I am your host, Chris, as always, here in my studio, listening to music, reviewing that music, having you review the music too, because that's this whole music commentary thing. We can all do it together. Regardless, thank you very much for joining me. Glad you decided to hang out with me today. And just remember, before we go forward, there's a bunch of things, or all the things I'm about to list that you can do to support the channel if you like what you see and or hear today. And that is like, subscribe, rate, share, comment, and follow. 6 quick, free, and easy things that you can do literally right now at your fingertips, just like that, to support the show. It'd mean the world to me. Even one of those things is fine by me, so thank you very much if you choose to do so. You can do it now, a little bit later, doesn't really matter. And you can find all the places to do those things over on ratetherecord.ca. That is ratetherecord.ca. Over there, you'll find the streaming links, social media links, the album rating chart, so you know the scores of every single album done on the podcast up to date so far, and it is indeed up to date. And of course, you can find the RTR Club over there. The RTR Club, yes, the optional financial way to support the show. It's optional, but the option is indeed yours. $3 a month will get you early access to episodes. You can request albums for me to do here on the show. If you have a band and you want me to review one of your songs, I'd be more than happy to do that. You'll get a shout out on social media in one of the closer episodes that you have subscribed to the RTR Club for. All of that sounds fantastic. If you want to check that out, you got to check out the RTR Club. And once again, that's found at ratetherecord.ca. So with that said, I guess we can finally move forward into the musical side of things. So I guess in the canon of things I have going on, I didn't release an episode last week. This one was supposed to be out last week. I got way too busy. I couldn't really find time to record or anything like that. So I'm a little off the ball with this particular album review, considering this is an anniversary that was supposed to happen on March 13th. Oops. But regardless, I'm going to cover the album anyways. And that album that I'm covering today is, of course, Radiohead and their 1995 album, The Bends. That's right, turning 30 years old as of March 13th. So I figured what better time to take a look at this album. And Radiohead has been done on the show before. OK Computer was all the way back in season 2, I believe. And I think that was also celebrating an anniversary, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it was, I don't remember. It's been quite a long time. But regardless, we're looking at The Bends today. So let me tell you a little bit more about the album before we actually start reviewing it. The Bends is the second full-length studio album by experimental alternative rock band Radiohead. It was released on March 13th, 1995, and was recorded at 3 different studios across England. RAK, or R-A-K Studios, and Abbey Road in London, and The Manor in Oxfordshire. The album was released through both Parlophone Records and Capitol Records LLC. This album was produced by the band themselves alongside Nigel Godrich, who has worked with Radiohead for the majority of their career, and other acts such as Idols, R.E.M., Susie and the Banshees, among others. John Leckie, who has a storied career having worked with many bands and artists such as George Harrison, John Lennon, and Paul McCartney, Pink Floyd, and so many more. And finally, Jim Warren was another producer on the album who has done production and album art for many bands as well. As of this and all Radiohead releases, the group consists of Phil Selway on drums and percussion, Ed O'Brien on guitar and vocals, brothers Colin and Johnny Greenwood, the former on bass and the latter on guitar, organ, recorder, synthesizer, piano, and string arrangements, and Tom York on vocals, guitar, piano, and string arrangements. The album initially received positive to mixed reviews upon release, with scores as high as 4 out of 4 stars from The Guardian, 4 out of 5 stars from Q, and a B+ from Entertainment Weekly, and scores as low as C from The Village Voice, and a 1 out of 4 from the Chicago Tribune, though retrospective reviews have the album as practically perfect across the board. The album originally appeared at number 110 on Rolling Stone's Greatest Albums of All Time list as of 2003, it slipped to number 111 in 2012, and number 276 in 2020. The album appeared on 13 different charts and made the top 10 on 4 charts, including number 8 in New Zealand and Belgium, number 7 in Scotland, and number 4 in the UK. It went 9 times platinum, 4 in the UK, 3 in Canada, and 1 each in New Zealand and the US. And it went gold in Argentina, Belgium, Italy, and the Netherlands. Half the record became singles at some point. My Iron Lung, that went platinum in Australia and gold in the UK. High and Dry, which went as high as number 11 in Canada and went 3 times platinum and 2 times gold. Fake Plastic Trees, which went as high as number 7 in Canada and went to gold and platinum. Just, which went as high as number 7 in Canada and went 2 times gold. Street Spirit, which went as high as number 5 in the UK and went silver. And the title track, The Bends. There you go, just in case you didn't know, there's a little bit more about the album for you. Well, that's telling you about the album. Now we actually have to go through the songs of the album. That's how this whole thing works. So I think we should get it started with song number 1, Planet Telex. As it fades away, I'm going to go ahead and just press pause right there at the end of the song. Song number 1, Planet Telex. This is a fun start to the album. The thing is, like, when I always go into an album, do the review, the first song I'm hoping will catch me in some way. It can be like an atmospheric buildup. It could be a big, intense track. It could be whatever it wants to be, but just grab me. And I think this one more or less did a good job of that. It's a fun start to the album. I mean, it's got a fun amount of energy going throughout the entire song. I know I'm using the word fun a lot, but what can I say? The sound gets fuller as it goes too, so that's kind of nice and rewarding as it kind of progresses. It's nice. And that groove between the bass and the drums is fantastic. I really do enjoy that. It works really, really well together. And that chopper piano and guitar are a really nice addition too. Gives like a nice overall texture to the track. So again, something else to grab onto and just really find interesting about it. There's good moments all over this track. It's not super catchy, but you know, there's not really much to complain about. So I think it's solid. I enjoy this as a start to the album, and I'm looking forward to the rest. So let's find out with song number 2, the title track itself, The Bends.
Something happened. I wish it was a wish. I wish that something would.
Oh, Tom, whisper your way into the microphone, won't you? Song number 2, Baby's Got Depends. Oh no. I mean, maybe you shouldn't be dating cradle robbers then. I don't know what to say. Sorry, that was a dumb joke. Anyways, The Bends, song number 2. This one's a pretty decent, straightforward alt-rock kind of tune. Got those loud, crunchy guitars and has that touch of that grungy nature from the first album. And I know a lot of people have said that this album is like the perfect crossroads of Pablo Honey, and it's like more grungier alternative rock nature, and then OK Computer, which went into more of an art rock experimental direction. And you will find touches of both albums all over this one. So this is like, I do agree, like this is a good centerpiece to find touches of both of those albums in this one. And then obviously you get the hints of what's to come in the future. So I like that. It's pretty interesting. Although this song definitely leads more towards the former, being Pablo Honey, as you can just tell listening to it. It's still pretty lively, obviously. Like it has like a lot of great moments in it. Musically, at the very least, it's bright and uplifting, so it's very easy to get caught up in. There you go. If I can get my words out, this review will be a-okay, I promise. It does have some high and lows to it, so like that's fine. It never really feels like it hits a peak though, which is kind of unfortunate because I felt like something bigger was being built towards, but not quite. It hits pretty standard as a typical rock kind of composition, so I mean, take that as it will, or take that as you will, I should say. Again, if I could say this all correctly, we're a-okay, I promise. It's still a good song though. I've actually always enjoyed this particular track, so I don't want to complain too much about it, but it's kind of standard in what it is, especially in like the pantheon of Radiohead. Not that I'm like thinking of future albums as in comparison to this one when I'm making my score for it, but I don't know. Yeah, this one just doesn't hit the same as compared to other tracks. Let's say that much. So now we'll move on to song number 3, another one of those singles, High and Dry. Hey, there you go. Song number 3, High and Dry. This was a nice time, I think, for something of a softer track, a bit of a come down in the energy. The acoustics are really nice in this one, so I really appreciate that. And I love that big hollow sound of the kick drum. It gives this like really neat idea of being like an unplugged style of track. So it's really cool. I like it. Just big hollow bass drum. Sometimes that can work wonders for a mix, just depending on what you're doing. And it's really nice here. I love the chorus of this song too. I don't think anyone dislikes the chorus of this song. It's sung so wonderfully. Everything about it sounds so great. It's so simple, but it's catchy and it's very effective too. Just it's presented perfectly. So just got to give it high praise because I just really enjoy the way it sounds and how it is in general. I feel like the last verse probably didn't need to be in this song. I feel like it just more or less ate up more time than actually adding anything of value to the track overall. Doesn't make me hate the song at all. I'm just wondering like why that was needed to stretch the song to 4 minutes and 17 seconds. This could have been under 4 minutes. It could have been like 3:45 type deal and we would have been fine. I don't know. Last verse felt a little useless, but other than that, I still like the song though. It's fine. Not going to complain much more. This is very pretty, very enjoyable. I like it. And I'm pretty sure a lot of other people do, considering, I don't know, has 508 million streams on Spotify, the most streamed song on this entire album, so that's got to show you that people like it, right? Anyways, another popular song, the second most popular song on this album, and the next one I'm going to review is Fake Plastic Trees.
The green plastic wall, a crack polystyrene, the words in my
And as it drifts off, just pause it right there. All good. Song number 4, Fake Plastic Trees. Man, this one's like a really pretty song that just has like a nice feeling of building and building and building in it. It just progressively gets more exciting as it goes, like right to the very end when it kind of just suddenly crashes out a bit and gets softer. It's really nicely done. I do like it. You can see the whole arc of the entire song there. It's just well written. And who would have thought that this really nice grand ballad of a track would have been inspired by Jeff Buckley of all people? My goodness. To be 100% honest, I can actually see a Jeff Buckley's version of this song existing. Not that it does, but I'm just saying like you can hear the inspiration in there if you listened to Jeff Buckley before. But yeah, apparently the story behind this one was that like Tom had written the melody, didn't really know what to do with it. They went to go see Jeff Buckley in concert. Super inspired by him and also his use of falsettos, so it also inspired Tom to start getting into falsettos more. And he did, and so yeah, the song came out sounding like something of a Jeff Buckley track. I know, like, not quite, but you can hear the inspiration for sure. So yeah, like, that's pretty neat. I'm here for that. I enjoy Jeff Buckley. I'm surprised I've not covered any of his albums on the show at this point. I'm definitely gonna have to, like, add that into the schedule at some point, I should say. But yeah, just a fun little note there. I found that pretty interesting when I found it out. And speaking of his falsetto too, like Tom's falsettos, like those lifts that keep frequently happening to the entire song, like I think they're great. They sound fantastic. It's a really nice hook that kind of just keeps pulling you in because again, it happens so frequently. It never gets tiresome though, so I'm definitely here for it. It's definitely memorable every single time it happens, even if you don't know the words to the song, even if you don't really know how it goes, you'll always remember that like falsetto, like that part. So sorry to torture you for half a second there with my impression, but still, it's really nice. I do like it. It's just well thought out, well crafted, enjoyable, and even being almost 5 minutes long, like it never feels like the song drags at all. It drifts nicely, very smoothly. Like every bit of progression is like natural and welcome in the song. I think it's like 4 minutes and 50 seconds well spent. I am all here for it. Fake Plastic Trees, one of the better songs on this album for sure. Now, how much better does this album get? Well, let's find out by going to song number 5, Bones. Cool. Song number 5, Bones. I don't know why I'm so sarcastic sounding about that. I apologize. But yes, that was indeed song number 5, Bones. Can you believe it? Anyways, yeah, about the song. That bass tone is one of the first things I want to talk about because you hear it pretty early on in the song and it kind of goes all the way through. It's fantastic. I mean, the bass does a lot on this album that's pretty good, but there's something about this one where it stands out just a bit more, and I think the tone works wonderfully for it. It's got that low punch to it, but it's got enough of a face to be present in the mix, so just shout out to the engineers for like really putting that forward, and everyone who mixed and mastered the album. Just like, you left that in there, and it sounds great. Thank you very much. I always appreciate that kind of thing. The choruses are fun in this song. They're nothing outstanding, I would say. But there's something of like an erratic nature to the vocals that I think are pretty cool. So at the very least, you have that kind of entertaining me. But other than that, it's more or less kind of a flatter song on the album, though. Nothing really grabbed me too much about it outside of those first 2 notes I had just mentioned. So it's like a very big possibility that I could listen to this again and not even remember this track, despite the fact that I liked listening to it now. But again, there's nothing that's calling me back to it. So not a terrible song by any stretch of the imagination, but it's just not all that interesting. Kind of a back and forth on that one. Compliment, and then you just slap it in the face a little bit. Apologies, I guess, but I mean, that's just how I felt. So hopefully I can have some nice things to say about song number 6, Nice Dream. Very dream-esque at the end there. Like, very, like, hallucinogenic. Not hallucinogenic, hypnogenic or hypnagogic. That's what I'm looking for. Very hypnagogic at the end there, where it's like you're kind of coming out of the dream into the waking world, still slightly in dream. I don't know. Anyways, I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about Nice Dream, song number 6. There you go. I don't really have like a lot of notes for this song, but I will say it's like a very pleasant track overall at the very least. It's mostly a smooth and dreamy stream of water to just kind of drift down, so it's nice to just kind of like lose yourself in it a little bit. But at the same time, there is this messier and more unhinged bridge in the second half of the song, which was like actually a very surprising welcome contrast to the rest of the song, considering how pretty and soft everything felt. I think moments like this were a good indicator of, again, that whole idea of bridging Pablo Honey to OK Computer, where you're kind of getting more like atmospheric, like experimental touches. Then you have that like kind of weird experimental alt rock stuff thrown back into the mix and everything like that, which you would definitely hear moving forward. So I think this is like a good indicator of the direction they were going to eventually be moving into. Beyond this album, which you can definitely hear in OK Computer for sure and beyond, obviously. So yeah, decent song. Don't really have a lot to say about it. Don't really have anything bad to say about it, so that's gotta be a good thing too, right? So let's move on to song number 7, Just. Bap, stop right there. That's it. That's all you need. Song number 7, Just. It's just so cut off that I had to like jump in with my own weird stimming sound. Anyway, yeah, song number 7, Just. This is just a great catchy track, no pun intended, I guess. I don't know. Just is a very common word to use, so I don't know how many times I can say no pun intended. It still has touches of experimentation like all over this track. And like a lot of that comes from the guitar work and like the odd note and chord changes as the song moves along. So I think that does a lot to really kind of keep you invested in the song because it just feels so strange, but everything is working at the same time. So I think it does a great job of that. And like those fast grinding guitars, like doing the ascensions at like the beginning of the songs, after the chorus, towards the end of the song and everything like that. they're always just so much fun to listen to. And then they doubled down at the end of the song and had the ascension towards the end, like eventually go into like pitch bending territory, like with a pedal or something like that. It just gets nuts. It's really entertaining stuff. I really like what they did with that because it just keeps ascending, but like you're like, it has to stop at some point, and it feels like they're going beyond like the fretboard, and obviously this can be the pitch bending pedal or whatever, or just like like one of those switch pedals. I don't know. I'm not here to talk about equipment. I'm here to talk about this song. But I like it regardless. It's fun. It's neat. It's cool. It's different. It's experimental. I like it. And up to this point, probably one of the best courses on the album, period. It's simple. It's super singable. It's energetic. Has a good little mix of normal vocals, occasionally being pushed forward with like slightly snarlish vocals. So I like it that we're kind of getting both in there. It's really cool stuff, really entertaining. I'm having a good time. Just as a fantastic songs, and it always has been. I'm surprised it doesn't have more streams than it does on Spotify right now. Looking at the screen, it says 216 million, which, don't get me wrong, that's a lot. But at the same time, it's just like, I would have figured this had more, but what do I know, right? Apparently nothing. Anyway, song number 8, moving along now to My Iron Lung. Just cut off right there again. Song number 8, My Iron Lung. Probably one of the more interesting songs on the album for sure. Although, I mean, it's not necessarily the highest rated on the album for me, but I think what really pushes it to me is like the really interesting guitar work of this song. I mean, you have those like frail, stringy, broken, clean passages, and then you mix that in with like those intense, distorted passages, very crunchy, muffled, fuzzed out passages. They have something of like a nice, well-working, chaotic juxtaposition with them. So I actually like how they work together. They're so almost like opposite of each other, but at the same time, like, I don't know, just something about it works. It's smart composition. They took a chance on it, and I personally enjoyed it. So obviously I'm going to talk a little more about that. I mean, I just did. I'm going to move on now. But yeah, it's pretty easy going for the most part, minus the obvious, crazy heavy and fast courses and everything like that. But that back and forth nature, actually, like of the like softer parts and then the crazier parts, match pretty well with the lyrics, considering the nature of the lyrics. Apparently, the song is about their feelings towards their song "Creep" from 1994's Pablo Honey. 1994, I think. Off the top of my head, I don't remember. Sorry if it's 1993. It might be 1993. Regardless, their previous album, Pablo Honey, the song "Creep." Everyone knows that song. You know that song. Your mom and dad know that song. Your animals know that song. Kids who haven't been born yet already know that song. So yeah, their feelings towards Creep. Very, very, very condensed idea of how they feel about Creep. They hate it. Like, despite the fact that it brought them like up financially and gained them popularity, it's like it's their expectation to always play that song and just be in the shadow of that song, but they want it to be more than that. So over the years, they've grown to hate that song. And so apparently the song My Iron Lung, which if you know what an iron lung is, kids, I go Google it. I'm not going to explain it, but regardless, you need it to live. And so the idea is like, iron lungs help you breathe and they will keep you alive. And so they see Creep as the iron lung, where it's like, you don't really have freedom when you're an iron lung. You're kind of stuck in this machine, but it's keeping you alive. Kind of like Creep did around the time this album came out. The profits from that song were massive. So obviously the royalties were huge. The popularity was huge. They were on charts. They were touring big. Everything was looking great, but they were hating that song. They didn't have the freedom because they had to follow in the shadow of that song. Thankfully, they would get out of that pretty soon. I mean, OK Computer is a huge departure from that style. So it didn't last long, but at this point in time, they were obviously very frustrated enough to write a song like this. So, you know what? I dig it. Cool. Like, the song meant more than I thought it did. I've never really analyzed it before, but then reading some things online and then just having my own opinion on the song and like reading the lyrics, I appreciate it. I dig the message of it, and I get it. I understand. It sucks. it's kind of like me being a Nine Inch Nails fan and like everyone wants to hear Closer all the time, you know? It's just like, listen, Closer's a great track, but at the same time, it's like, don't just always want Closer, man. There's tons of amazing Nine Inch Nails tracks. Same with Radiohead. Tons of amazing Radiohead tracks. You don't need Creep. It's fine. It's fine. Anyways, my little rant done. Rant, I guess. I don't know what to call that. My opinion. Song number 9 now. Bulletproof, I Wish I Was.
Wish that I could burst
Okay, cool. Song number 9, Bulletproof, ... I Wish I Was. I get the titling. I get what it's trying to do. Should have just been parentheses rather than an ellipsis, but that's just me. I'm not going to mark score for that either. That's just me being picky. Regardless, Bulletproof. I'm just for short, I'm going to call it Bulletproof. Song number 9. It's nice to have like something of another come down off of those high and sometimes almost manic energy tracks that we just got in the previous 2. So it's, again, this album has valleys is what I'm trying to say. It's got your highs and lows, but they're nicely spaced apart and they feel good when they arrive. So, I mean, this is a great placement on the album for a track like this. Really appreciate it. It's a really peaceful and pretty track. And it also carries like a lot of sweeping atmosphere behind it too. And a lot of that comes from like, you know, the synths, there's guitar works and just effects like being reverbed in the background and everything like that. It's a really pleasant texture to have. And it's just like keeping everything together. So I think it's like one of the unsung heroes of the song. It's still a nice song, but like stuff like that really do kind of glue a song together of what you want it to be. Keep it from wandering too much, keep it from feeling too bare. So I think that's one of my favorite kind of like quieter parts about the song in general. And being like an almost softer, like ballady kind of track, like there's not really too much more that you can pull from this one, unfortunately. I mean, it's well sung. The guitar passages are really nice, especially towards the end of like the choruses too. I think like the little like, chord patterns that happen there are just really interesting and pretty. So by all means, I'm here for that. Really enjoy it. It's a nice song. I do like it. Again, there's not much to pull from it, but at the same time, it's good. I dig it. I like it. So we're on a good path going into the end of this album. We're almost there, but now we're hitting song number 10, Black Star by David Bowie. No. It's not David Bowie's Black Star. It's Radiohead's Black Star. Gotcha. Another album I have to do one day. And as it rings out, song number 10, Black Star. Sorry for the lame David Bowie joke in the beginning there, but I saw the title and immediately thought of that album because it's a fantastic album. Regardless, this is a song by Radiohead that I'm talking about right now. It's a strange way to start the song, if you ask me. I mean, the fade in that makes it sound like it's like already in progress and I've missed a chunk of the song. Pretty bold choice. And not only that, it didn't really like the tie-in didn't really match what was going on in the other song. So the continuity is not there either. So just like, I wonder why that was a choice. And we've done albums on the show before where that has happened. And I've probably asked the exact same question. But why do bands do that though? Like, why do you need to fade in like in the middle of what sounds like the middle of a track? Just do a count in, just start, like who cares? Or have a riff build you in, something, anything. But like the fade in is just, I don't know. It's kind of tacky. I don't like it. I'm not a huge fan of that. But whatever. I'm not doxing tons of marks because of that. I'm just kind of like iffy about why they do that. Realistically, I should say, before I made a weird sound right there. Realistically, everything about this song is fine. I'm fine too. Don't worry about it. But it just tends to feel like a little flat, unfortunately. I mean, the noisier choruses definitely help kind of catch your attention again. So that's always nice to have. But like other than that, it's fairly standard and straightforward. Like there's not really too much to discern from this song, unfortunately. Like, I don't know. It's still a decent track though. I mean, it's not the highest on my list, but at the same time, I will say I certainly don't dislike it. But kind of like what I said about Bones and how I could come back to this album and not even remember it. It's very possible I could just not remember this song either, despite the fact that I don't dislike it. So, I don't know. Just very telling of how I feel about it, I guess. Just in those standard words alone. Anyways, we're nearly done now. Let's go to the penultimate track, song number 11, Sulk. All right, song number 11, Sulk. We're almost at the end, but this is the penultimate track. A super interesting start to the song. I will say that, just like to kick everything off. Like it's strange. It's a strange and different way to start the song and bring it in. We haven't gotten that yet on the album, just more of that kind of interesting, nearly atmospheric experimentation. I really appreciated that. Yeah, and there's that experimentation's like kind of all over the track in this one. And a lot of that comes from that choppy, noisy guitar or just the layers that are scattered in the background of the song. So I think that's one of the things I appreciate about it the most. But with the rest of the song, like it's okay, but I should talk about the lyrics for a minute here. So from what I understand, this song has some pretty heavy implications to it, lyrically at the very least. It's supposed to be a reference to the Hungerford Massacre of 1987, and now I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know anything about it. I'm not going to try to hit too heavily into details or facts or anything, because I was just kind of doing my own research, found that out, and I mean, maybe I have some reading to do. I think the problem with me being a Canadian is the most massacres I ever hear of are, usually coming from down south a little bit, and it's like an every other day occurrence type deal. Sorry, not sorry for that, but I mean, it's true. It sucks. But regardless, like I'm not trying to poke fun and put one over the other, but just I don't want to talk too much about it only because I don't really know anything about it, and I don't want to be ignorant about it either. But I've also heard conflicting things about this song, how it may also just be about the effects of depression and anxiety in general. But regardless of whatever it is, the implications are still heavy. So I mean, like, you can see why it's like a touchy subject altogether. But the rest of the track instrumentally sounds good at the very least, though nothing really outstanding about it in the end, like too much better at all, aside from that one note I mentioned about like the noisier, choppier layers. And also Tom hitting those high notes towards the end too sounded really good. I think he nailed it. So I've always thought Tom York has a fantastic voice. I know a lot of people do too, but I also know that like a lot of people don't like his voice and that he just sounds kind of weird. I don't know. I've always thought he sounded really cool. And the high notes he's hitting in this one, I think, work really well in his favor. But with that said, we'll move on to the final track, song number 12, Street Spirit parentheses Fade Out.
Watch out for a circle before you.
Might have a note about the fade out part. Song number 12, Street Spirit Fade Out. This is a decently emotional track to end the album on. The guitar work is fantastic. The picking and progression, they're really pleasant. So it's just very nice to kind of just flow along with this entire song. And the pickup was fine too, like once the drums and everything kicked in. But I actually thought the synth sweeping in the background honestly didn't hit the mark that it kind of wanted to hit. It just felt a little tacky since everything else was doing such a really good job. So the synths, I don't know, just kind of maybe cheesed it up a little bit. I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but I wasn't really feeling it when I heard it. I was just like, it didn't need to be there. But everything else did really good though. This is a nice song, very much enjoyable. Still a nice track overall. Definitely one of the standout non-singles on the album for sure, although I guess it was technically a single, wasn't it? So it's just one of the lesser known ones for sure, so maybe that's why I classified it as such. But yeah, that fade out, come on, you can't have fade out at the parentheses at the final song and only have a 2-second fade out. Like, come on now. I was expecting something like 20 or 30 seconds, something I would complain about in other songs, like you probably didn't need to fade out that long. But at the same time, when this one's actually labeled fade out, I was like, okay, we're expecting something big here. Nope, just 2 seconds. But whatever, doesn't matter. That doesn't dox marks at all. It's fine. I just wanted to make a dumb little note about that. And with that said, we are now at the end, as I put my headphones away, we're at the end of The Bends by Radiohead. I think it's a really solid effort of an album altogether. Better than most critics like initially gave it credit for. Obviously, the retrospective reviews like kiss this album's ass completely. I don't know if I'd go that high, but I'm definitely more positive than some of the original reviews for this album. You can definitely hear some of the more like creative portions come out, as I've mentioned before, and they're kind of an indicator of where the band would end up moving forward. Obviously, OK Computer came after this. We already did a review for that on Rate the Record. And so we already kind of got the touch on that. And then everything beyond there got way more experimental just as it went, kept going. It still had its like guitar rock roots, but everything just felt so different moving beyond this album. So it's nice that you can hear those tiny little notes in here, kind of planting the seeds of what this band would become in the near future, really. Because I think it was like, 2 years later, OK Computer came out and they were already like, it felt like a different band at that point. But anyways, that is the end of that. So I guess what I can do now is take Spotify off the screen, step aside just a smidge to let the numbers in, because obviously the numbers have to be here too. Yeah, 1 through 12. It's time to rank the songs 1 through 12, as I've just said. So now, yeah, we got to decide what's the least favorite to favorite, the worst to best, not so great to great. However you want to cut the cake, please cut the cake. There's a lineup of people waiting, me included. I wouldn't mind a slice of cake myself. Being diabetic, don't worry about that. It's fine. I'll take care of the insulin thing later. I just want some cake. With that said, I'll give you a slice of mine here because I got my song rankings ready for you. Let's go. Number 12, Bones. Number 11, Black Star. 10, The Bends. 9, Bulletproof, I Wish I Was. 8, Sulk. 7, High and Dry. 6, My Iron Lung. 5, Nice Dream. 4, Street Spirit. 3, Planet Telex. 2, Fake Plastic Trees, because of course number 1 is going to be Just. Obviously, again, not the most streamed song on the album, but at the same time, this one just hit all the right marks of being like that kind of grungy alt-rock sound, being experimental, being exciting, being entertaining, just being all over the place, but doing it so damn well. Just deserves to be number 1, and it is indeed on my list. Cool, songs are out of the way, so that can fizzle off now. And now, fizzling in, we got to rate the record. That's the next step that we have to do for this podcast. So, what did I think about this album, aside from the scores I just showed you for the songs? Well, if you did some math on your own, maybe you didn't, I don't know, but you could see that most of them were pretty decent. There was like a lot of 8s. There's some 8.5s, 9.5, and everything like that. But of course, the lower songs were going to bring down the score a little bit. But I think this went up higher than I thought it was originally going to. We ended up with a B+ tier album at 78.33%. Yet another B tier album for the Rate the Record podcast in season 7. We only have one other ranked album that's not a B tier so far. God, that joke is coming back in full throttle now, isn't it? The whole B tier thing. In season 6, I thought that joke was going to die. But season 7, oh man, it's back. But what can I say? That's what I thought about it. So it's definitely not a bad album at all. B+ is good. 78 is a really good score. As much as I joke about it, it's still a decent album. I will say that. I very much enjoyed my time with it. I'm glad I got to check it out. While I was talking, the words disappeared. That's fine, because we are now at the end of this episode. So thank you very much for joining me and hanging out with me and listening to this album today. And if you did indeed listen to this album today, do me a favor, down in the comments below of wherever you're listening, audio, video, it doesn't really matter. There's comment sections everywhere. Make sure you leave your opinions about this album in those comments. What did you think about it? Did you love this album? Did you hate this album? What do you think of Radiohead? Do you agree or disagree with me? How would you rank the songs? How would you rate the record? All these things and more, you know that I want to know down in the comments below. So if you would please, I would love to see your reaction to this and just see what you have to say about this album in general. And of course, if you want to leave comments anywhere else, you can find places to do those over at ratetherecord.ca. That is ratetherecord.ca. Streaming links, social media links, the album rating chart, which this one will now appear on that chart, and of course the RTR Club again if you want to financially support the show as well. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and all that kind of fun stuff that YouTube always wants me to tell you to do over and over again. So please go ahead and do that. Thank you very much appreciated. We are done here. I can let you go. I'll give you a bit of a teaser for next week. I haven't really done next week teasers since like season 5 and earlier, like when Savannah was here and everything like that. I'll give you a teaser for next week. How about that? So next week, we are going back to the 80s, dealing with a very influential but underrated band. This is kind of a alternative-ish rock band, more geared towards like the darker side of things, I guess, that have been very influential to many bands even today, but is super, super underrated. I'm looking forward to getting into this one. It's one that's been on the list before, and I keep pushing it, but next week, it's happening. It's going to happen. I'm so excited for it. So until then, I'm going to leave you with that, and I want you to go listen to even more awesome music until I see you next week. So until then, take care, friendlies.